Product R&D, research and development, is one of the very key and most basic aspects of what we do at DFC. So what does that mean? Well, what it means primarily is being first to market. And it sounds simple, but when you think about the mechanics involved to get there, it becomes a little more complicated. First, you have to, get the information. Once you get the information, then you basically have to buy that product. So we have to go to all the original equipment manufacturers and get samples for each and every new OEM number that comes out. And it sounds simple enough, but you're talking about every manufacturer out there, and you're talking about all kinds of product groups, and you're talking about a lot of money. So it's really expensive to put together your original equipment library in order to do this. So we have to make that commitment that this is what we're going to do. It's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of manpower, but this is what we have to do to be the best. So once you get the product, then it has to be analyzed. So is this original equipment part that's new for this year, is it different than the prior year's model? Well, now we have to go and do the engineering on that. So we have to reverse engineer whether it's a brake pad, brake drum or shoe, or a rotor, of course. Basically the whole system, piece of hardware, and to analyze what changes, if there are any changes that are significant. So did they just change the number because of a coding? Well, if so, then we can then make the assessment that, well, we can update this OEM number to the previous year's model, so we have essentially a consolidation that lets you apply the previous year's part to the newest year without any problems. But we have to make that assessment. Conversely, if the part is different, which we find out through our engineering analysis, then we have to go ahead and design that part and then supply the various manufacturers with the drawings and then find our best source for that product. When it comes to friction, there are friction specialists all over the world. So depending on what we assess the friction material to be, we may go to our German source, or our source in Thailand, or our source in China, or our source in India, depending on what their focus is, because different manufacturers have different disciplines. Some are more focused on higher performance materials like low metallic materials. Some are more focused on copper-free ceramics. Some are better at semi-metallics. So we work with many suppliers, many original equipment suppliers, and to provide the latest products. So you can see all the different steps it has to go to by the time we arrive at a finished part. So this is the key aspect. And then similar with the hardware, we have to do the same thing. We have to do the reverse engineering. A lot of times, even if the entire envelope remains the same, but there might be a different bend on the hardware, we have to analyze that, because perhaps there may have been a certain pad retraction feature that's now built into this piece of hardware that maybe hadn't been there before. So then we have to make a decision, well, do we use this later version, which can update the previous versions, in order to provide this retraction that heretofore had not been there? And then assess, well, maybe what they're trying to do, and I think what all manufacturers are trying to do, for example, is to, upon application, release of the brake pad, after the application of the braking event, you want that pad to move away from the rotor, so that for better gas mileage, for example, and for longer brake pad work. So that's just another one of the assessments we have to make. So it's not just as simple as getting a part, cataloging a part, and selling the part. There's a lot that goes into that, and that's what we call R&D at DFC.